Continue. Go.
I've experienced my fair share of racism and microaggressions throughout my life so far. I was raised in a small conservative farm town in Central California, and let's just say that growing up there was really tough for me. Elementary school was the worst. Children can be so cruel to others. I was the only Asian person or Asian looking person in my school. My school consisted of primarily white and Hispanic children. I was the one who stuck out, the one that was different to the other children. They would always bully me and were verbally abusive. Almost every day was hell. They would tell me things like, go back to China, or ew, don't talk to us because you eat dog, or you're Asian, aren't you supposed to be smart? They would also make random noises of what they thought Chinese language sounded like while pulling back their eyelids to simulate a slanted look. My teachers and others would see this bullying going on and wouldn't do anything about it. It seemed like everybody just turned a blind eye to it. I even told my fourth grade teacher about it. She basically told me to just get over it and ignore what everybody was saying to me. She was an old white lady, so I didn't really expect her to understand what I was going through in the first place. I was terrified to go to school. At a young age, I had all this anger and resentment towards myself and others. I hated who I was. As I got older, the bullying lessened, but it was still there. I wish I had people that stood up for me or people that would tell me how to deal with these kind of things. I just wanted to be like everybody else so I could have a normal life.
They say, be proud of your language, but they prefer if you speak in English. They say, kayumangi is the way, but use papaya soap and glutathione because mestiza is prettier anyway. They say, be proud of your country, but conform to the colonized way. So you do. So you practice and use English more than you do with Tagalog. So you grow up thinking, I'm way better because I have lighter skin, I can speak English, I go to a Catholic school, and all these other things. But what you don't understand is how it's taking a toll on your identity. As a young kid, you move on with your life thinking your physical appearance should be something specific. You grow up judging the people who look darker than you, who speak only Tagalog and not English. You grow up with a heart that is dark and a skin that is light. You become toxic, not just to the people around you, but to your own identity. Because of what? Colonial mentality. You criticize yourself after you bathe under the sun enjoying the beach, because now that the sun made your skin darker, you think you're ugly. You criticize yourself when you're in front of the mirror because your nose should be more pointy. You criticize yourself when you realize your grammar is incorrect. And you have an accent because they say that's not how it's supposed to be. Your colonial mentality has kept you in, made you ignorant and naive, made you lose touch of what is real, of your identity.
I was born in the Philippines and raised in America. Like a lot of immigrant families, we endured our share of financial hardships, as well as our difficulties with colonial mentality. I grew up in a very loving but tough love type of home, where a certain level of success was expected. I had strict rules growing up, and mistakes were barely tolerated. If a no decision was made, you got hit. No explanation, because you should already know better. Conversations were non-existent because of the Filipino parent-child dynamic in which they talk and you shut your mouth and listen. Growing up in this environment conditioned me to hold my tongue. As a kid, I thought being silent meant a form of respect for your elders, which to me translated to a form of love. My pops, a good hardworking man, was always rough with his words when he would talk to me. I now know he was coming from a place of love, but at the time, all I could hear was his disappointment. It was his way of motivating me to be the best version of myself, but somehow statements like, "You'll never be anything," or condescending questions like, "Is this what you are?" really didn't make me feel like we were on the same side. This form of silence carried over to my social interactions, and for the longest time, I couldn't communicate clearly because it felt wrong to express myself. The impact hit hardest in middle school, where I endured a lot of oppressors. I could have easily spoken up, but I didn't want to seem weak, incapable, embarrassed, or even disappointing in the eyes of my parents. I found it hard to ask for guidance, which made navigating life really difficult and confusing. I had the support system, yet I was too embarrassed or afraid to use it. It wasn't until I got to high school where I really began breaking my silence. There, I was introduced to breakdancing, which in turn put me onto all the elements of the hip hop culture. As I learned more about the culture, I started to emulate its hardened nature. It became my form of expression and identity, and for the first time, I started to feel free. This explosive and physical art form helped me cultivate my sense of individuality and also became my outlet for any negative energy that needed to be released. From the foundations of hip hop, I started to build and break free of my silences. I learned to own my style and be proud of it. While I'm always willing to be a student, when the time comes and my voice needs to be heard, best believe I'll be anything but silent.
In an atmosphere where Americans would find my situation to be very lucky. My mom never worked, so she stayed at home, and I have a dad who can work from home if he wanted to, so he always did. This was a rare case to have, and I thank God every day that I was able to experience having parents who were always there for me. However, some of their morals didn't align with mine, so I had to play the part because I felt guilty. I felt guilty in a sense that my parents always did their best to give my siblings and I the best life they could give us. Without even knowing my parents long, you could almost instantly see how genuine and caring my parents are. When it comes to my sexuality, they were against same-sex relationships because they know how hard it would be to live life being different to what was normal. They would be hurt knowing they gave it all. They would be hurt knowing they gave it all to give us a better life, and I just threw it away. This is a moment where I had to decide whether or not I loved myself more than my parents. I loved my parents more than I loved myself, so I decided to be the daughter they wanted me to be. I looked the part. I was super involved in school, and most of all, I fit in. I was accepted by society, and that's all my parents wanted. To be able to have a daughter live their life without any problems. Did my parents show me love? Yes. Did I feel completely loved by them? No. After high school, I moved to the Bay Area where I didn't have to dress the part anymore because my parents didn't see me often. This gave me a chance to be myself, and this gave my parents a peace of mind that I fit in. As time passed by, I started to feel guilty that I was keeping this secret from my parents. I wanted to feel complete and loved by them as my whole self. I eventually came out to them. It took a while for them to understand and embrace my identity, but they came around. I have never felt so much love from them until the moment they showed me love completely.
People's identities and stories have always been written for them, and now it's our time to claim who we are back and rewrite our own story. Rewriting our own stories based off of true experiences and stories from our grandparents is a very important step towards decolonization. It's up to us to carry on traditions and stories that our grandparents tell us because it's what we have left. The way I choose to practice this is carrying around a journal for storytelling. Every time I have the opportunity to sit down with any of my grandparents, I enjoy asking one simple question that excites them to expand on and tell a story about their life. Writing down these stories is personal and sacred to me because I will be able to reflect back on them in the future and keep their spirits and stories alive. Decolonization is the process of going back to our indigenous ways, including through our health and food. Choosing to eat food from our ethnic backgrounds more on a daily basis and not just on holidays can open up our spirits to who we are. I decolonize my diet when giving my Lolo a helping hand in his backyard garden, where we grow our own fruits and vegetables, from apples, plums, and tomatoes to lemons and avocados. I also enjoy being in the kitchen overseeing what my abuelita, Lola, or Diaz are cooking up, while asking questions about the recipe and writing down in my journal the details for creating their ethnic-rich, homemade recipes. Many of us mixed Filipinas have similar experiences when naming our identity, not only to others but to ourselves as well. Growing up Mexipina, I often feel a battle with my identity, feeling as if I need to choose one heritage over the other, or claiming that I am more of one heritage than the other. I choose to embrace being Mexipina and to claim it as my truth and name. As I step towards my own process of decolonization, this has been important for me for understanding how to navigate my present as well as my future. Who am I? Who do you think I am? Just because I'm Mexican and Filipino doesn't mean I'm related to everyone in town, and doesn't mean I am more proud of one more than the other. Will stereotypes always define a person? Do you fully understand someone from their ethnicity? Wanting to show the world around me that I am not what I appear to be, but who I claim to be, my story, and who I really am.
My story is not about me. My story is about the impact of another soul on my own. My story impacts the thoughts on life, love, and time. My story is about the freedom that comes at the end of a road of pain and love. My story is about my mother's soul. The center of the story finds me on my 18th birthday, introducing myself to my mother. "Hello, I'm..." "The nurse said that my son would be coming in soon," my mom interjected. We just found my mother. After a week-long search throughout most of Northern California, she turned up in Oregon with barely an hour left to live, comatose and dying. The day she awoke in the small, cramped hospital room, my family came running in. We were outside her door trying to celebrate my 18th birthday with a Safeway cake and some Dreyer's ice cream. My life changed the instant my mom talked to me. We soon learned that she lost all of her memory, all the places, people, time, gone. I soon dropped out of college to take care for her, teaching her how to live again. During this time, I saw a profound transformation within myself. I think that my mother's rebirth created such a strong connection to my family and to my existence that I can't go a day without thinking about it. I was able to flip through photo books and get sentimental like Lolas do and reminisce over pictures of my lifetime to someone that experienced it with me, sitting right next to me, but had no recollection. I couldn't help but try to understand the meaning of memory if it is so futile, or something so concrete as your own parents joking about funny things you did as a kid, like putting on a cowboy hat and trying to jump on the large Doberman we had. How things like that could easily disappear. This path of meditation led me to my growth, to my understanding of the world and our experience. Today, I live by a simple statement: take this time on our earth to experience, learn, and love. And know, at the end of it all, family will always be there for you.
This is my story.
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 This is my story.